All right. If you're curious about sponsorships and making more money for your brand or your business, if you're a brick and mortar, if you're online influencer or content creator, it does not matter. I am jumping out of my seat. I'm so excited about this conversation and sharing my sponsorship coach, Justin Moore, with you guys. This is so good. And I have really told him that I am on a mission to show small businesses like what's possible for them if they lean into sponsorships and how it can completely change the trajectory of their business. And you guys know that I'm here for that. I'm just so grateful. I'm bursting with gratitude that I know Justin, that I've gotten to learn from him, and now that I get to share him with you all. So let's bring on Justin Moore from Creator Wizard. Welcome back to the Messy Success Podcast, where your growth is our favorite topic. I'm your host, Elizabeth Henson, and here on the podcast, we share behind the scenes of building a business using our community-based marketing and real-life lessons that make your business easy and profitable. We help you combine your dharma, your unique skills, and your offers to build the business of your dreams on your terms. I don't give average business advice. I'm here to help you unlock the superpowers that are already within you. So make sure to follow along, and I promise you will start becoming even more magnetic, and you will see your own community grow around your brand. All right. Hello, Justin. I am so excited to have you here today. We just finished Elevate and Inspire, and everybody got a copy of your book, Sponsor Magnet. And now they get to at least listen to you in person, tell your story. So, where I'd like to start is how the heck did you become a sponsor coach? Like, what does that look like?
It's a great question. I was not in this arena at all 17 years ago. I was in medical devices. Actually, I'm an engineer by my background. And my wife April, started a YouTube channel back in 2009. And this is really how everything started. So really, I owe everything to her because, I was Mr., going down the traditional corporate career path. But she was like, you know what? I really have this passion around beauty and skincare and makeup and cosmetics. And I don't have any friends who are into this type of thing. So let me start making YouTube videos. And I basically helped her edit them and kind of get them uploaded. Mind you, back in the day, 2009, like there was no, like the YouTube partner program was just starting. It was application only at that time.
Oh, wow.
And you didn't like automatically get in and, if you hit a certain watch time or subscribership or whatever, you get, ad revenue from YouTube that everyone thinks about now. Like back in the day, it was like a very prized thing to get into this program. And so I think I want to start here because it was a hobby. It was a passion project for her. It wasn't like I thought she was going to make a bunch of money. She was a preschool teacher and a server at the same time. And so we were just like normal people with like normal jobs. We had a normal life. We did not think of ourselves as entrepreneurs or side hustlers or anything. And what happened was that brands started reaching out to her pretty early on, but not offering to pay her. It was like, hey, let me give you this free hair curler, or let me give you this free, beauty product if you talk about us in a YouTube video. And she was just like, let's go, makeup is expensive. And we were in our early 20s. We had no money, living in a studio apartment. And so that's how it was for years, Elizabeth. It wasn't like we suddenly wised up after like a month or something. No, it was like for years, it was this kind of thing where brands were just sending free stuff and she was stoked to talk about them in the videos. And so what happened is I decided to go back to school and get my MBA at night after work. And so I started taking these classes all around negotiation and advertising and marketing and sales and all that. And kind of the gears started turning. And so I went back to April after one class one night. I think it was my negotiation class. I was like, I really think you're getting the short end of the stick here. Like you have hundreds of people in your comment section saying, oh, thanks so much, April. I just went to the store and got this, or I've never heard of this brand. Thanks for telling me about it. And I said, I don't think a $30 hair curler is adequate compensation for what the value you're bringing to these brands. And so this is when we decided to start asking brands like, hey, do you have a budget to collaborate with us? And I'll never forget the first brand that we said this to. They basically almost immediately said, oh yeah, sure. If you can talk about us in 2 videos a month, we will pay you $700 a month. This was back in like 2010 or 11. And our minds were just blown because our next thought was, how can we find 10 more brands just like this? Right. And so Fast forward, 15 years, we've done close to $6 million in sponsorship revenue ourselves personally. I started and ran an influencer marketing agency that I ran for 7 years, paid out millions of dollars to other creators. And over the last 6 years, I've transitioned into kind of this education and coaching business to teach creators that they can actually do this themselves. You don't need a manager, an agent, a broker. Like, you can learn to do this yourself and make a lot of money.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's so powerful. And I shared this at the event too. I was like, I just met Justin in February and I landed not just more sponsors than I ever had in the past for Elevate and Inspire, but we made more money. And I didn't have to send a single cold pitch, like not a single one. I mean, everything happened, kind of started in that room in Daryl's office in Minneapolis. And I was like, I literally just met him and I feel like my life has changed. And now I want to be this like advocate for like small business owners and small influencers. And I work with so many people on the local level where I am. And I'm like, yeah, you have a hair salon, but you like, look at all these products that you're talking about on your social media and with your clients. And I feel like the in-person brick and mortar or people that host events like I do, it's like this whole other arena where I don't want to use the word easier, but sponsorships are almost simpler because we're not really playing against the algorithms as much. It's like we have this real client base, even if it's small. But what you taught me is like small doesn't matter, it's impact.
Well, can we actually go down this rabbit hole for a second?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because this whole idea of having a brick and mortar or having a hyper local business, shockingly large amounts of money to be made in sponsorships for businesses like this. I found I have several of these types of folks in my coaching program because you think about like one example, they have this business called Cincy Scoop. So they have a Cincinnati based media company, a newsletter and an Instagram page where they are just curating the latest things, events, things that are going around in Cincinnati. And, if you are a local business or you are a regional or national tour that's coming through Cincinnati, right? Part of the marketing strategy to get people to come to these types of events is buying local media, right? So they're buying radio advertising, they're, advertising in the penny saver, whatever the billboards and bus benches, whatever assets they go and they survey and they say, where can I run media? What inventory is available to me to advertise to this local population? And so, their newsletter, they've got something like 30 or 40,000 Cincinnati residents on their newsletter. They have like a captive audience, right? So if they're a tour or some sort of big event or musical performances or something, and they have this ability to like not only buy newsletter ads but Instagram content that they can repurpose and run paid advertising with. Man, they're almost like kind of the only game in town from a new media perspective, right? And so I think that anyone who is thinking, I'm not dancing on TikTok, I don't have like a large global scale. It's like, no. Like you can make a huge amount of money if you market yourself in the right way.
Yeah, I love that. So that my hunch was correct. Thank you for confirming that. I'm like, I'm just seeing opportunity in this whole new way, since I went to sponsor games and met you. And I'm like, there's so much opportunity for these small businesses to supplement their income. And I'm even just thinking about, I have an SMS list that's all local to Hampton Roads. I'm like, oh my God, I could be charging to share about events to that SMS list.
I mean, what's the open rates of SMS these days, right? Compared to like
over 90%.
Yeah. Compared to like email or social media for that matter, right?
Yeah. Crazy. Okay. And then I want to rewind to this because, oh my gosh, I love your story and that this all started with April's hobby. I don't think I really knew that. So I told April this at your event. My friend Angie, I was like, been pushing your book on her. I'm like, Angie, you've got to read this book. You've got to read this book. She's like in the perfect place in her business. And, she's like, yeah. And then a few weeks later, she's like, wait. She's like, this is the Justin you've been talking about. She's like, I watched him and his wife on YouTube like 10 years ago, religiously every single time. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know he was a YouTuber. I only know you as the sponsorship coach. So I just wanted to acknowledge April and her hard work. And the fact that she started all of this is such an incredible, part of you guys' story.
That's a wild coincidence. And yeah, I mean, we daily vlogged for 1,000 days, not missing an upload. So like we have the scars to prove that like, honestly, like, let's talk about this because a lot of my expertise and knowledge was born out of just all the mistakes that we made over many, many years doing these types of deals. Because again, back in the day, like we didn't know anyone really who was doing the types of deals that we were. We didn't know any entertainment lawyers. Like, we kind of started networking and made friends with other creators who were doing this. But like, name a mistake. Like I remember one time a brand reached out and offered April $2,000 in free clothing credit for a YouTube video. And she was like, new wardrobe, let's go. Yeah. Right. And so she was like, no problem. So they sent over the agreement. Again, didn't have a lawyer. We were like, we looked at it. It's probably fine. Like kind of did a once over on the agreement, signed it. Then a couple months later, we were watching TV and a broadcast TV commercial comes on with her YouTube footage from that clothing company. And we turned to ourselves and we're like, did we grant them the rights to run TV ads with this? And look at the contract. Sure enough. Yep. Broadcast TV rights, signed away for not even for money. It was for free clothing credit. Right. And so a lot of the, everything that I've kind of distilled into the book was hopefully me putting my hand on hopefully thousands, tens of thousands of creators and saying, please don't make the same mistakes that we did. You don't have to. And so I think that I'm happy to kind of chat through some of this stuff as well in terms of like some of the common mistakes that I see creators making or entrepreneurs making when they try and negotiate with brands, because there's definitely some low hanging fruit stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So I'd love to tell you one of my biggest takeaways and a mistake I was making before. So I have my event and I've reached out to brands like Flowdesk, brands that I use. That's always where I start, is brands that I use. And I love them. They sent some swag, for the swag bags, but they never really said yes to actually sponsor the event. And then there was another one, Thrivecart. They were like, you're too small. So anyway, I realized with Flowdesk, once I learned about the industry reports and the surveys, I was like, okay, if I can survey my audience and show that I have 500 Flowdesk users on my email list, which I'm sure I do, a lot of those are my affiliates, and I'm seeing some of them drop off, right, and switch to other companies. My new angle with Flowdesk could say, hey, I see that you guys are doing an education or retention campaign. I have 500 users on my list. I want to make sure that we keep them. Let's partner to do a retention partnership, something like that. That was huge for me because I was pitching them saying, oh, I'm having this event with 60 creators in a room, but that's not nearly as exciting or sexy to them as knowing that I have access to 500 of their users. How did I do?
You did fantastic. And you want to know why? It's because you're tapping into an existing campaign / budget that they've already allocated. Because the big mistake that people make with the former pitch that you described is, oh, I love you. Please sponsor me. It's like you have your hand out, right? Oliver Twist style. And they don't have random piles of money laying around to sponsor people that reach out with that weak pitch. But they do have piles of money that they've already allocated to their own important initiatives for their company. Like you mentioned, retention. That's a big deal. Let's spend money targeting our existing customers with education, with initiatives, with new features, with new benefits, like to educate them on why they should continue to use our tool. And so if you represent a conduit for them to continue to championing that message in a different and exciting format than a Facebook ad, great. Let's slide 10K over to Elizabeth for her event, because not only will that help us move us closer to our objectives, but maybe we can get some great content that we can repurpose and then rinse and repeat and run more ads about that, right? So it's exactly the right approach, and it's a big missed opportunity for a lot of people.
Yeah. And I just realized, the past 3 years, I was like, that's why they didn't say yes, because I was really just telling them who I am and who's in the room versus what's really possible and having the numbers to back it up.
What's also a very important point here is that your experience getting rejected, trying to pitch sponsors and doing this wrong approach convinces a lot of people that sponsorships are not worth it. Because they think, well, if I'm just going to get rejected, like I'm just going to go and focus on other revenue generating activities that seem easier to, close. Like I'm more in control. Like I can directly sell to people. Like, why would I even want to deal with sponsors? And so I'm kind of on this mission to be like, no, it's not that sponsorships are hard to do. It's that you were doing it wrong and you convince yourself that pitching doesn't work, when in reality, it absolutely does. You just need to take the right approach.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, that flipped the script for me, just being able to see that, okay, here's what I was doing. And I can totally see now why it wasn't landing. And it's even changed the way I think about podcast pitches. Like when I'm getting them in my inbox, and then when we're pitching podcasts, I mean, your rope method actually would work for a podcast pitch just as well as it would work for a sponsorship. Do you want to give people like a little preview of what that is? Because it's all covered in the book in detail, right?
Yeah. So why don't we do a live teaching example? I'll explain the concept while trying to land you a podcast sponsor. Should we do that?
Yeah. I love it.
Okay. So what Elizabeth is mentioning is I have this pitching methodology that I teach in my book, Sponsor Magnet, called the ROPE method. So it's an acronym. R stands for your pitch has to be relevant to a campaign that the brand is either currently running or they've run in the past. O stands for organic, meaning that you can tie your pitch back to organic work that you've already published that illustrates that your audience has existing affinity for their brand. Not that you have affinity, but that your audience has affinity. This is critical, okay? P stands for proof, so you can show how you've helped other brands achieve results. And E stands for easy to execute when they say, hey, yeah, I'm kind of interested. So you're actually pitching them something tangible. You're not just saying, I would love to figure out a way to collaborate, right? Okay, so this is the rope method, but let's do this in practice. So give me a brand. Should we do Flowdesk or should we do, or actually, no, we just did the retention example. Give me another brand from that hypothetical survey that you did of your audience that you say, okay, it seems like a lot of my folks are using this tool and, would get excited about hearing about this new offering from them. So another brand jumped to mind for you?
Yeah, so a lot of my people use Thrivecart. I love my bank. I use Novo. I know they do a lot of like community initiatives. And then I was trying to think of a podcast if we wanted to use the podcast example.
I love can we do Novo? I love a banking example. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen. So for those of you listening, go watch the video if there's a video. Okay, so here we go. So this is the brand, right? Novo.
Yep. Oh my God, I'm like blown away that you know how to share screen on Riverside. Where have I been? This is amazing.
Don't worry.
This is amazing. Okay. We're in class with Justin.
We're in class. Okay, so the reason that I'm bringing up Novo's website, we're going to do a bit of sleuthing here, right? So I want to know what types of messaging are they, championing above the fold. So it says smarter banking for brand designers, web developers. They have this kind of scrolling thing of like all the different types of entrepreneurs that they help. So smarter banking, right? I'm going to look above the fold. So grow your business without all the growing pains. So they've just got a bunch of features and benefits. They're FDIC insured. Okay, so I'm scrolling, join trusted partners. Okay, learn, connect, and grow. So join webinars and events that give you insights and tools to grow your business. I'm going to open that because that's interesting to me. So I'm going to go take a look at that after. Okay, I'm going to scroll down because I want to see the types of content that they're posting on social media. So I'm going to open some of their platforms. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to switch to this other tab over here. Okay, so we're now on their education area of their website. So I already have a pitch for you, which is let's go back and look at like I'm looking at their past events right now. They have not hosted an event since August of 2025. So my question for them is what's going on? Why are you no longer hosting webinars? I think this could be super effective for my audience. And you go back and you look through some of their past webinars and find one specifically that you think your audience would go crazy for and say, can we rerun this webinar you did like 18 months ago? I think this is amazing. I would love to, it'll be a webinar with me and, whoever ran this on your team. I can run some podcast ads, promoting this. I can do a newsletter blast. I can do an SMS blast. Why are you not doing webinars anymore? What happened here?
Yeah.
And so that's a super simple pitch. So going back to the ROPE method, right? The ROPE, the relevancy is the webinar, right? They ran this in the past. It would be interesting to know why they're no longer, this doesn't seem like an active strategy for them. Maybe it's just like, oh, we don't have the bandwidth, but like you reaching out is the impetus for them to be like, oh yeah, we got to like restart this because that was like, really effective for us. So great. This is a great excuse to like dive back into webinars because Elizabeth is serving as the catalyst for that, right? And then the O in the ROPE method, the organic piece is, so for example, like I'm looking at a webinar right here that says how to automate your client invoicing. Do you have an episode in your podcast back catalog from 2 years ago where you talked about client invoicing or strategies to collect payments or something like that? Great. Link that in, the pitch so that they have evidence that your audience is into this topic, right? And by the way, if you do not have a podcast episode that's relevant to this pitch, you make one before you pitch them.
Yeah, so easy.
You make them before, yes. And so it's still going to serve your audience. But again, strategically that I'm going to use this episode to pitch Novo in a month, right? So it requires a bit of future, like intentionality, right, about your content strategy to know that this could serve kind of like a double purpose. And then, so that's the relevancy, organic. And then we're going to pitch them something. We're going to say, I would love to do this webinar in partnership with your team. I can do 5, host read ads over the next 6 weeks promoting this webinar, and then happy to share some results of how I partnered with Flowdesk, for my recent in-person event, and we did podcast ads or whatever. Are you free on Thursday at 10 a.m. to talk about this?
Yeah.
That's the pitch. That's the pitch. That's the pitch, right? And so think about it from Novo's perspective, right? They're busy. They are doing lots of things. You're pitching, let's say, the director of marketing or director of partnerships or whatever. They're doing, in-person events. They're doing podcast ads. They're doing, meta ads. They're doing all the things. And so you're coming here with this thing kind of served on a silver platter for them. Here's this exact thing that I'm proposing to you. And so now all they have to do is react to it. They don't have to jump on a pick your brain call with you to figure out a way to collaborate. They don't know. It's very concrete. And by the way, they could say no. They could say, no, like we're not doing webinars anymore. That's a possibility. But love your initiative here, Elizabeth. Like, let's get on a call. Let's chat about how we could potentially collaborate, because the events is really what we're in-person events. That's what we're really focusing on right now. And then you're like, okay, great. I've got an in-person event. Let's talk about that. Right. And so this is the form that your pitches should take versus just something super generic.
Yeah, I love it. That's so good. And like I said, even with podcasts, if I'm just pitching to be on a podcast, I can use that same method and say, here's an episode, here's my most downloaded episode that was in the same kind of arena, versus just like, here's my signature talks, go look at them, and I don't know, it's completely changed the way I look at so many things. And with Novo, had I met you before, because I was in contact with their like community initiative person, and I'll have to go back and look at like where it went wrong, but I bet I could even jump right back into that thread and say, hey, I was spending some time on your website. Here's what I saw. We could partner together to get some people on a webinar. And like you said, if their issue, not that we want to make assumptions, but if their issue was capacity or time or like allocation of their employees, they could actually work with me or a sponsor partner, and they would be spending way less and getting potentially way more.
Well, and you know what this could potentially lead? If that's the case, part of your pitch, so you have this discovery conversation with them, part of your pitch could be like, well, how about I just keep doing these webinars for you? Me, not your team. How about I be the person that run these webinars as a Novo user, as a entrepreneur that can speak with credibility to the utility of your products? Let's, 10,000 a month. I'll host one webinar a week for you, or I don't know, two webinars a week, and I'll promote it and all. So one of the other lessons, like a big through line throughout my book, Sponsor Magnet, is it's this mindset of creativity. You could reach out to a sponsor with one idea, but in all reality, like in all certainty, they're going to come back to you with just some variation of what you propose to them. And they'll be like, I like this element of this, but I don't like this, right? How about this instead? How about this is the thing that's more important to us? And like your perspective should just be like, sure, that sounds great. Like, you want to do that? Let's do that. You want to do this? Let's do this. And so you may emerge from this discovery call with a totally different idea, and could lead you to a super, super lucrative partnership of something you never envisioned.
Yeah. I mean, in a company like that I'm already using, that I know is a good fit for my people. I mean, as their little scrolly thing is going by and they're saying all the different companies or types of companies they work with, I'm like, these are my clients. So I think being B2B, especially working with online entrepreneurs, this is, an online baking system. Like, I'm already doing this. Like, this is literally something I'm already doing. I may as well be getting paid for it.
I think there's a tendency to look at a large brand like this and be like, they've got it all figured out. They've got the marketing teams. They've got maybe ad agencies that are helping them with this stuff. They've got internal teams, who are like, isn't that their job to like figure this stuff out? Man, like, people are busy. They're just humans, right? They just had a round of layoffs, and now their 2 jobs were compressed into one, and they have to do this other person's responsibility. And so don't underestimate the attractiveness of a turnkey offer that you could come to a brand with, even a large brand like Novo or any other brand, because you just have to remember they're all humans on the other side of it. And so if you can make their life easier, you'll be surprised what they'll be willing to pay to solve that pain point.
Oh, I love. Okay, another direction I want to take this conversation, because this is another kind of barrier that I hit a lot, is, people will respond with, oh, well, we already have an affiliate program. And the way I look at it, if I was to run webinars for my affiliate commission that I get with Novo, it's like a $50 credit or something like that. I'm like, that doesn't move the needle on my revenue goals or, technically the potential ROI for them. So can you speak to that a little bit of like how, like when some people are trying to compare like affiliate commission versus sponsorships?
So I do this a lot. Let's put our hat on, pretend we're the brand.
Okay.
Why do they want this setup? Well, first of all, let's actually take it even a step back. What's the very first thing that a brand would prefer? That they would give you some sort of free or gifted access or product in exchange for some sort of promotion, right? We'll give you a year free of Novo services, fee free for you, Elizabeth, and all you have to do is talk about us on your pod. Like that's the dream scenario for them, right? And so
Right.
most brands start there. They start, let's just send out a bunch of free stuff, free access to people, see who will talk about us, right? Then they quickly realize, like, well, yes, that was good, but we sent out all this free stuff and only 10 people actually talked about it, right? Because there was no like obligations to like post about it necessarily. And of the 10 people that posted about it, maybe only 3 of those were actually good. Like that was content that we could like get value from or made conversions or whatever. So then they think, okay, free stuff was fine. Let's graduate to affiliates. Like you said, like we will incentivize people financially if they drive some sort of action and some sort of sale, whatever. We'll give them 20%, 25%, 15, whatever. But again, even if they give all this access out, they do not have really much control over how their affiliates are representing their brand, right? Because they don't get the privileges to review this content in advance before you do your ad read or before you do your newsletter blast if you're just an affiliate. What if you misrepresent the campaign? What if you misrepresent the purposes of this new feature that they're launching? That's not a great look. And especially if the campaign is high stakes, has high stakes for the brand, they want more control. And so this is one of the lines of conversation to have when these brands pitch, an affiliate model to you is like, look, when you collaborate with someone like me, and I see that this like initiative is high stakes for you, when you compensate me in a flat capacity, you rightfully get more creative input into how this asset is ultimately created. So I will create a concept for you of how I'm envisioning talking about your tool and your product for you to give feedback on before I even start production. When you give me the green light and I then ultimately create the asset, I'm going to give you a draft of that ad read for you to provide feedback on. If I say something improperly, if I mispronounce the name of the product, or like I do something, you can come back to me and be like, hey, make this edit, make this revision. That is something that you are afforded when we either do a flat rate deal or some sort of hybrid deal. A hybrid deal, by the way, is like some sort of flat compensation upfront plus some sort of back end kicker. So maybe it's a reduced affiliate commission, but there's some sort of like, upfront fee that they have to pay you to create the content. And so in my view, affiliate marketing trivializes the work required to generate the content containing the promotion, right? You are still expending social capital by telling your audience like, hey, I love and use this tool. That is worth something. And so I think educating and articulating this to a brand, I have all these kind of scripts in my book that help you overcome this. And like, again, I have a lot of them, but like one, for example, is like, they hit you with the affiliate thing and you say, great, I'm going to go take a look at the affiliate thing. Out of curiosity, do your affiliates also grant you the rights to repurpose their content for paid advertising? That's something that I specialize in. Would you like to see a few investment options for what that might look like? And they think, actually, no, we don't get the rights to repurpose our affiliates' content. Let's talk with Elizabeth. It seems like she's thinking about influencer marketing or influencer strategy in a different way that we haven't before. And so again, a lot of what I talk about is like, you're not just a creator, you're not just an entrepreneur, you're not just someone at an event, you are a consultant. It's your job to like put the consultant hat on and think like a marketer and how they can get more ROI out of working with you.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite takeaways too, listening to your podcast, is to think about it like a consultant, because I've done marketing consulting and like we're almost like this little CMO coming into their business and partnering with them from that marketing expertise place, not just, oh, I'm going to send an email and blast your thing. It's really more of a joint effort and you're bringing your expertise to the table. I love that.
I think a lot of people are scared to do that though. They think, who am I? I have imposter syndrome. I'm just I have my own little business, client services business here, or I'm like a coach or whatever it is. I have a social media account. I'm not a consultant. I'm not an expert in marketing or copywriting or any of this stuff. And the charge that I'm going to give you is, well, guess what? Time to learn, time to educate yourself, time to read some books, time to listen to the Sponsor Magnet podcast or the Messy Success podcast. Start learning about this stuff so that you can speak their language, because not only will they respect you more, but they'll pay you more.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Can I tell you another mistake I think I made and you can help me kind of like put words to it?
Yeah.
So my first year for my event, I had two bigger sponsors that kind of got the speaking part. And one of them did what you said and kind of negotiated me down to include the affiliate revenue. So I'm like, okay, cool. Like I'm still getting a little bit of cash up front, but there's the potential to make more in the recurring affiliate commissions. And what was so interesting about these two sponsors at the event is the one that went all in on the flat fee also went all in on the event and participated, sat with the attendees, and they got so many conversions. It's like one of my greatest, success stories. And then this other one that kind of negotiated into the affiliate commission didn't see the conversions, didn't participate in the event as much. And that was my first event. So now I feel like I can almost tell these people, here's how you get the most out of the
Mhm.
people in the room. But do you see that happen too, where like they negotiate and then now it's like I'm actually saw less results?
So this is a really hard piece of advice to give because again, your anecdotes are very similar to what I experienced with my in-person event sponsor games. But sometimes you may need to walk away from money. Sometimes you may need to walk away from a sponsor who has an unrealistic expectation of what the return is that they're going to get from, especially an in-person event. And that's tough. It's hard because that means you might lose money, right?
Yeah.
But not only will you walk away from that event and likely never work with that brand again because they just had that one experience with you and they're like, oh, we're not going to work with Elizabeth anymore. But you've robbed yourself of the ability to have a more fruitful relationship with that brand over time. So probably what I would have done in that scenario is I would have said like, you know what? And of course, like we're trying to relitigate the past, based on, hindsight's always 2020, but like, in a situation like that where a sponsor for sure now, like going into year 3 of my event, if a sponsor comes to me and says like the goal of sponsoring your event, Justin, is to walk away with 20 paid accounts of people signing up for our tool, I'm going to say, I'm sorry, like, that's not a realistic expectation or goal of partnering with this event. However, maybe we should talk about doing a newsletter partnership instead. Maybe we should talk about doing a podcast sponsorship instead. So I'm always constantly triaging brands that I'm speaking with. And so I may have pitched them for an in-person event sponsorship, but if I hear them through those discovery conversations having a goal that is misaligned with the format that I'm trying to pitch them, I'm going to instantly shut that down. I'm going to be like, you know what? Actually, I don't think the event is right for you. Let's like talk about this thing over here. And maybe the deal doesn't work out, but I've said this and I've received a bit of blowback on social media when I talk about this, but I actually think it's what I call creator malpractice to close a deal with a brand knowing that you're not going to get them the outcome that they are telling you, right? And so just because you want the money or you need the money. And so I think you need to have this very long-term mindset when it comes to working with sponsors. So rather than, making the quick buck, it's much more fruitful to like, be upfront and say like, I actually don't think I can help you here, but let's try this instead.
Oh, I love that. I mean, and I love these learning lessons because this is how we learn and how we get better. And these are mistakes that I won't make anymore because now it's like, I feel like I'm in the driver's seat. Then that first year was like, oh my God, a sponsor. Yes. Like I'll do whatever. But I think something I would be comfortable, maybe not promising, right? But focusing on is like, instead of we can get this many conversions, it's like, okay, well, I can get you this many appointments booked. Right. Or I can get you this many calls booked before, during, after the event. And then the conversions are, dare I say, their responsibility.
No, don't say that. Yes,
Okay.
you dared, and I'm gonna unfortunately we're gonna have to walk this back here. Let me explain why that's actually not the right mindset. So have you ever like landed on hit a landing page from an ad on Instagram or something, right? And you go to this landing page and the ad looked good, right? The video or whatever it was, you're like, oh, this sounds like an interesting product. And then you land on the page and you're like, this is super confusing. I don't know if this product is for me or it just seems too expensive or no, I'm good. And you just bounce, right? This is the exact same calculus that your audience goes through when you talk about a sponsor and you send them to a landing page. And they have these objections in their mind as they're an everyday consumer and they're trying to decide, will this sponsor solve some sort of pain point in my business? And so going back to this consultant idea, it is your job to counsel the brand on how to improve the landing page because guess what's going to happen? Conversions are going to increase. You're going to say, I know my audience really well. This copy sucks. Like can we change the landing page to say, here's why Elizabeth loves Novo. And then there's a little video embedded on the page where you're being like, I've been a Novo customer for 4 years and here's how I use it. And here's a 7-minute demo of me sharing my screen and showing you how I use it. And you have a little testimonial on the screen. Click here, sign up for a free trial. Do you think that's going to perform better when you do your ad read on your podcast and you send them to that landing page versus some generic one of like, try Novo, 30-day free trial? So it's your job. It's your job to counsel them on this type of thing because it's in your benefit because conversions are going to go up and they're going to want to hire you again.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's such good feedback. And that really lands because I'm even thinking about, my event and, Doc was there, once your sponsorship coaches. And I didn't have like a video from you or anything. We just had your book. And then I shared some of my experience. And then I was able to say Doc's in the room. And it's like it was live and in person. So not a video like you're saying, but in person, I'm saying I met Justin. Here's what I experienced. Here's what I did differently. Here's how we saw results, for this event. And then all of a sudden people are like so interested and they're getting in their little accountability
Mm.
groups and they're asking Doc all the questions versus had I just kept my mouth shut and sent them to the QR code to your website, they would have had a completely different experience of that.
Okay, so can we do a live learning moment
Yes, I'm here for all the learning
okay.
moments. This is so good.
Okay, so if it's not clear yet, I sponsored your event, right? I
Yeah,
sponsored your
yeah, yeah.
event and I sent free books and all that. By the way, I'm still waiting on your post-campaign report that you're going to send me of
Yeah, I haven't
how
sent
the
that over because
campaign
we're not
went.
done yet.
Okay. Okay, good. Good. Because what I would have a next level thing that would have been like a no-brainer for me to sponsor next year's event or future events of yours if you as a outcome of the event, you would have said, there were 5 or 6 attendees who I ended up having sidebar conversations with or whatever. They asked me about sponsorships or they asked me about, tell me more about Justin or whatever. Like during dinner or lunch or whatever. If even though this was not promised as part of the deliverables of our partnership, you would have took it upon yourself to make personal introductions to those people with me. You would have said, hey,
Yeah.
would you mind if I introduce you to Justin? Like, it seems like you're at a point in your business. I kind of knowing Justin's ICP for his sponsorship coaching clients, like knowing that he's trying to target certain types of people. And you would have asked me about what my ICP is and hopefully, right? Let me go do a double opt-in. Let me go talk to them. Would you be comfortable with me making an intro? You come to me, Justin, can I make an intro here? And you made 5 personal email introductions to me. Again, knowing that, it's not like your event had 1,000 people, right? It was small enough that like you could probably make personal connections like that. And it wouldn't be like a unrealistic ask of like what I'm saying to you, right? And so that is the way in which you convince a sponsor like, oh, I'm coming back now, because Elizabeth went so above and beyond to ensure that I got a great return out of sponsoring this event. That's really all it takes, right? Because that's how I'm thinking about obviously I wanted to support you because you came to Sponsor Games and you've been awesome and everything. But like, if I'm thinking about it from an ROI perspective as a sponsor, I sponsored your event. At the end of the day, it's all about coaching enrollments. That really is the metric for my business. That's my signature offer, is I help people make more money on their brand deals and we don't take a cut. That's our whole model. And so if I could get one client, one new client, from those 5 conversations that you introed. So again, like I wanted to use this example because like, this is the mindset that you need to have when you work. How can I go over deliver? How can I go above and beyond? Even though it wasn't in the, the terms and conditions of the contract, I'm just going to blow them away so much that it's going to be a no-brainer.
Yeah, I love that. And that really happened. Like those side conversations 100% really happened. And there's someone in my area who I know like could be nailing so many sponsorships, and she couldn't come to the event. And I like hand delivered her a book at a separate event. And I was like, I know you can't come to my event, but like you need this. So yes, I mean, this is already like in my wheelhouse and how I'm operating. So I love that like green light, because there was a little part of me, and I'm sharing this because I know people probably have the same hesitation of like, does Justin even want the intros? Is he too busy? Is he too big time? You know what I mean? So I love that like green light of yes, like go for it.
Well, first of all, I appreciate you voicing that concern or hesitation, because I think a lot of people think, oh, the brand's too busy. They wouldn't want to like do personal introduction, me to introduce personally. Are you kidding me? Of course they would. They would be like, oh, let's get this customer success person or the account executive to talk. Yeah, that's great. Let's set up calls. So not only is that, yes, that's a great idea, but also you are solving a problem.
Yeah.
For the person that you're introduced, like that your attendee that couldn't come or someone who did come, they want to make more money on sponsorships probably, right? And so if you being like, let me make this personal introduction for you, they're like, it's not like, how dare you, Elizabeth? Like you're trying to like push your sponsors on me. It's like, no, like you're solving a problem for them. This is a good thing, right?
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. And I love serving people in that way. It just always makes me feel good to be a connector. And I even told her, I'm like, I'm sorry if I'm being overbearing, but like, you just really need this. I was like, tell me if I'm overstepping, but take the book.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you for being my evangelist.
Yeah. Well, it's so easy. I mean, it's so easy. The proof is in the pudding, and just like what I've seen in just a few months. And, I came back from Sponsor Games and had to dive right back into my event planning. And I'm just so excited to continue pitching and building my brand in a way that can really support sponsors. I'm just so excited about that.
I love
You're
it. I
so
love
good
it.
at what you do. And I'm so honored to be your friend and to have you here and to make those introductions so that we can have you back next year.
I appreciate that so much. Thank you.
Yeah. Is there anything that you want to share that you have coming up? Let people know where they can find you. Obviously, they're going to read the book.
Yeah. Well, first of all, this was such an awesome chat. And we really just scratched the surface of like everything I cover in my book, Sponsor Magnet. And so you can pick it up at sponsormagnet.com. I've got the audiobook and, whatever format, digital, ebook, paperback, et cetera. I have a goal to get this in the hands of 100,000 people in the next 10 years. And I'm just about to hit 10,000 copies sold, which feels super awesome, but got a long way to go. So yeah, if you know anyone in your life or your business who could benefit from making more money with sponsorships, I would super appreciate you sending them my way.
Yeah, absolutely. And sponsor games next year. People can enroll now,
sponsor
right?
games next year. Yeah. I mean, this is, you were there and probably can speak to how awesome it was and transformative it was, but it's my in-person event where I teach you this stuff in person. So that you actually come up on stage, you do role play, you pretend you're negotiating with the sponsor, you practice your pitching. And so a lot of the some of the games that we were, role playing today in terms of what we would pitch to Novo, for example, is something that we do times 10 at sponsor games. So sponsorgames.com for that one.
Yes. And I walked away winning a sponsorship, which was great. And
You
I
sure
love
did.
role play. I mean, that's how I learned a lot of my coaching skills and sales skills was just pretending to be on calls and doing the role play. I know a lot of people are resistant to it because it can be uncomfortable, but I love watching. I love participating. I mean, even on this podcast, I'm like, yes, please correct me in real time, because people are going to get so much more from that than just here's step A through Z on how to do such and such. It's like, no, get experience it,
100%. And I guess maybe the last thing is I have a podcast all about this called Sponsor Magnet, the Sponsor Magnet podcast. So if this topic, this niche topic you enjoy nerding out over, come on over and subscribe. We'd love to see you there.
And it's so good. I binged it on the way to your event because I was like, I cannot walk into the room and not know anything. I hadn't read the book yet. And I binged that podcast on the whole flight. And it was so good. I felt so prepared, walking into sponsor games. And I was already like, oh, I've already gotten my money's worth and I haven't even landed yet.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Justin, for being here. I look so forward to working with you again. I'm already signed up for Sponsor Games 2027. So I'll be there.
Let's go.
And I imagine I love it. The money stone. I imagine I'll be bringing some peeps with me too. So that's exciting.
Would love it. I super appreciate that, Elizabeth. This was great.
Cool. Thank you. We'll put everything in the show notes and I appreciate your time so much. Yay! Thank you so much for being here and pushing play today. It really means the world to have you here, and this podcast wouldn't exist without you. If you're curious about your next step in business, don't forget to take our next step action quiz at elizabethhenson.co/next, and it will tell you exactly what is your next move. If you love this podcast, be sure to subscribe, share it with a friend, or leave us a review. It truly means the world to us and keeps us going. If you have a question or maybe a barrier in your business, we would love to invite you to submit your question, and we are even starting a new series where we will be coaching live on the air. So if you want to hear more about that or have your question answered or just maybe feel brave and vulnerable to share about your business here on the podcast and get some support live on air, go to elizabethhenson.co/ask, and we really hope to hear from you. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next week.